We also want to introduce a very special guest tonight. We have Marissa Barlow with us, and Marissa just won our annual business plan competition. And this was one of the most amazing companies that we have seen come out of our program here. She's done over $200,000 in sales with her business, and she's done $100,000 in sales just this month in January. And so she's 18 years old. She's a freshman. She won our $5,000 grand prize, and I want to show a video about her and her company. Let's do that right now.
Hi there, my name is Marissa Barlow, and I'm the designer and founder of Nani Swimwear. Women are most vulnerable when they are in a swimsuit, and that's why it's so important that they have a suit that they feel comfortable and confident in. Nani Swimwear was born to fill a need for swimsuits with more coverage for a better price. But not only did we want women to look good, but feel good. Most swimsuit companies use a nylon spandex fabric, but what sets Nani apart from them is our poly spandex mix. This polyester spandex material is more form-fitting, so it doesn't stretch out. It's chlorine resistant and it's more durable. On average, polyester lasts 2 to 3 times longer than nylon spandex fabric. Our built-in bra pads provide support and security for all sizes. In addition to this high quality, I wanted the suits to be stylish yet optimal for active women. We offer many different patterns and styles so you can mix and match to create the perfect style for you. These styles vary from tankini to midkini and crop to bralette. Details and designs such as pockets, tie backs, mesh inserts, and high necks set us apart from the larger stores. When it comes down to it, Nani guarantees unique styles and higher quality, all for a better price.
So Marissa did exactly what we teach in our program. Is she found a need as a user. She's a user entrepreneur.
Hey everyone, my name is Nathan Finch. I've created a company called Wag Seasoning. I am completely passionate in helping and inspiring people.
We're going to do that one next week. Okay, so she found a problem. She wanted a swimming suit that was really stylish but more modest than the string bikinis and the old grandma one-piecers, and she couldn't find it. So as a user entrepreneur, she created the solution, and she's doing a phenomenal job with this business. So I've asked Marissa to come up and tell us one thing that she would give you as advice as a new entrepreneur. Okay?
Thank you. Okay, so entrepreneurship to me is really just all about passion and finding what you're passionate about, and that's what you should do. So going into Nani, I really had no idea. I didn't have any knowledge about clothing manufacturing or the design process, but the passion got me through all of the hard times, and there's going to be hard times and you're going to fail over and over, but if you're passionate about what you're doing, then it'll be a lot easier and you'll find success. So
thank you so much, Marissa. Okay, we have an amazing speaker tonight. Dan Clark is one of the most interesting people I know on this earth, and he's a great friend. He speaks all over the world, and he could be just about anywhere giving a lecture tonight for a very high fee, but he's chosen to be here at Utah State University because he loves interacting with students. There isn't anything he hasn't done. He's kind of the all-seasons entrepreneur. And so we're going to introduce him with a 3-minute video, and then he's going to take the rest of the time, so we have until 7:30. He'll speak for maybe an hour and then answer questions. Okay, so let's show the video. Bailey, and then Dan will jump right in.
Thank you again so much. I really appreciate this opportunity.
He's here. Coming up next, you don't believe it, Dan Clark is here, the international speaker. No kidding. Achievers North America, Achievers Europe, both of them named Dan Clark one of the top 10 speakers in the world. I thought I was one. He's one. He's a New York Times best-selling author. He's a singer. You gotta be kidding. He's a singer, an athlete, a songwriter, a philanthropist, a screenwriter, an adventurer. He's everything. He's funny. He's inspirational. Hey, he's Dan Clark. He's changing the world one story at a time. Stay tuned.
Dan is the author of 21 books and a primary contributing author to the Chicken Soup of the Soul series, where one of Dan's world-famous stories was made into a film at Paramount Studios, starring the late Jack Lemmon. Dan's writing and speaking career began when he fought his way back from a paralyzing injury that cut short his football career. Zig Ziglar sponsored Dan into the National Speakers Association and for 25 years mentored Dan to become one of the most sought-after speakers on the planet. Dan has headlined the largest stages in the world, working with Fortune 500 companies, Super Bowl champions, military leaders, and government rulers who continually seek Dan's thought leadership, counsel, and inspiration. In 2005, Dan was inducted into the National Speakers Hall of Fame. Dan's extraordinary life includes flying fighter jets with the Air Force Thunderbirds, catching 9.4 Gs, going Mach 2 at twice the speed of sound, racing automobiles at the Nürburgring, serving on the Olympic Committee, and carrying the Olympic torch in the 2002 Winter Olympics. Serving on the International Board of Governors Operation Smile, and soaring to the edge of space in a U-2 reconnaissance craft, where after a full day of training, accelerated to a classified altitude above 70,000 feet, and for 3.5 hours, gazed into the blackness of space, witnessing the breathtaking curvature of the Earth, and experienced a 15-mile high perspective on things as they really are. As CEO of the Art of Significance Leadership Development Corporation, Dan has interviewed and hung out with the most celebrated personalities of our time and has appeared on over 500 TV and radio programs, including Oprah and Glenn Beck, and on the cover of Millionaire magazine. But more important to Dan, and most significant of all, in 2012, Dan was named Utah Father of the Year. Truly a Renaissance man for all reasons, who will help you transform your life from success to significance. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Mr. Dan Clark.
You're sick. It's an honor to be here. I've owned a home at Barrow Lake over the mountain since 1989. And there's two ways to get to Barrow Lake, obviously from Salt Lake City through Evanston or up through Sardine Canyon and across the mountain. So I've been through Logan so many times, and this place has a special feel. It's a pretty cool place. My mother's maiden name is Mon. And so her ancestors are the ones that settled Cache Valley and Wellsville. I've spent a lot of time driving through your city. My uncle, Elmer Clark, he used to run the dairy research department here. He was a PhD and did magical things for myself and my 3 siblings growing up, where on Easter morning we would wake up and he would have timed it perfectly. He would have taken these little eggs, and with his surgical precision, he would take these syringes full of different colors of food coloring, and he would somehow know which end of the egg he should squirt the coloring in, and then he would time it perfectly. So through the incubation process on Easter morning, we would have like 14 or 15 little chicks hatch that morning, all different colors. And I thought that was kind of cool, you know, teaching us about strength and diversity as a 1-year-old. And way to start, Clark. I have a question. Have you ever been to a concert where no matter how many amazing songs your favorite artist performs, if he or she does not sing the song that you needed him or her to sing, the concert sucks. So I'm old enough to know that Billy Joel is one of my favorite all-time songwriters and performers. And if you go to a Billy Joel concert, 90 minutes of unbelievable connection, and he's performing and he's so awesome. But if he does not sing The Piano Man, you rush the stage and say, I'll go to prison, you just visit me on Thursday. So each one of you have come tonight with an agenda. You want some song to be sung. You want some question to be answered. You want Marissa's phone number. This is like eharmony.com. This is cool. You know, like you did like $100,000 like just this month. I was sitting there watching everybody like, shh, what's her, wait, shh, what, who, what's her number, where does she live? That's pretty sick, right? eharmony.stalker. So each of you has something that you want to know about. So I've thought an awful lot about what I could possibly bring to your life. And I mean that seriously, not to your educational experience here at Utah State, and not to your major, not to those of you who have signed up for this amazing entrepreneurship opportunity of a lifetime to be exposed to the tutelage of Michael Glauser, who's one of the geniuses on our planet. But I would suspect that maybe you're here because there's nothing else to do on a Wednesday night. Maybe the bowling alley's closed. Or maybe more seriously, that you want to leave here different than you've ever been. And I want to ask you some questions. Do you really believe that in an hour we can talk about some things that would change you in a way where you could leave this magnificent, beautiful theater / auditorium and never be the same? Do you really believe and understand the significance of time? Today you've never been this old before. And today you'll never be this young again. So right now matters. And every right now matters. Which means no matter what your past has been, you have a spotless future. Which means you can't always control what happens, but you can always control what happens next. Are you with me? So let me ask the question again. Do you believe that I can tell some stories, that we can talk about some things where you could actually leave tonight on a Wednesday in Logan and never be the same? Do you believe that one moment in time can change your life forever? I do. Proof. I was on the program with Henry Winkler, the Fonzie from Happy Days. Clearly one of the funniest guys I've ever met. The tragedy is that so many of you are so young, you don't even know who I'm talking about. And that's just wrong. He's the coolest guy who ever lived. You need to Google him. He started in a 1970s television sitcom called Happy Days. And his character's name was Fonzie, the coolest guy, the coolest dude on the planet. He and I finished our speeches, and he decides he wants to take some time off, treat himself to a matinee movie. So he slides in through the side exit door of the theater. And as Henry Winkler shuffles himself through the aisle, he finds himself a vacant seat. As Henry Winkler turns to sit down on the chair to look up at the movie screen, the little girl sitting right behind him smiles this giant smile. She points her finger and she slowly says, Fonzie. Henry Winkler immediately snaps into the Fonzie character from Happy Days. Hey, whoa. And the lady sitting next to the little girl passes out. Henry Winkler milks the moment. Whoa, I thought this only happened on TV drama. Hey, how cool is this? Whoa. Theater manager comes out, takes care of the woman's needs. She's lying in the aisle. Cold pack on her forehead. She's asked one question. Why did you pass out? She said, my little girl is autistic. And that is the very first word she has ever spoken in her entire life. Do I have your permission to blow your mind forever? Question. Do you believe your life has an expiration date? Some of you are like, wait a minute. Why did you go so deep so fast, man? Why can't we just laugh a little bit? Can it take it easy? You know, smoke a little medicinal marijuana, relax. Do you believe your life has an expiration date? Do you believe in the Old Testament, in the Bible, Job says our days are numbered? Do you believe that we have an expiration date? Some of you would agree. How many of you agree? Yes. How many of you disagree? Cool. There's not a theologian, an ecclesiastical leader, or a philosopher anywhere on our planet who can give us a definitive answer. So regardless of what you believe right now, cool. But I want to share an experience that blew my mind forever. I've never been the same. One of the boards I sit on is called the National Civic Leaders Board. I serve with the 4-star general who's over the Air Force, Chief of Staff of the Air Force. He's part of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And I've served with 3 different chiefs now. So I'm at the Pentagon sometimes every 7, maybe 8 weeks in a year. For some pretty high-level meetings, we butt right up to the classified. It's kind of cool. And because I'm a history fan and I love American history and I love military history, in between our meetings at the Pentagon, I wander the halls and I read the citations on the walls of those who received the Medal of Honor, and I see the artwork, and I'm just fascinated by the whole deal. And at the end of my self-guided tour, I always end at the memorial chapel that commemorates what happened that Tuesday morning on September 11th, 2001. And it's always a self-guided tour, so I have no one to ask questions of, but it's an interesting experience because it's a small room, this memorial chapel. They have the religious traditions represented, all of them in different holy books. They have the names of the 184 who died that day and some of the wounded. And when you walk into the room, you feel something different. You walk out. I'm a little twisted. I'm like, I feel it. I don't feel it. I feel it. This is real. It's a reverent spiritual experience. And this one particular meeting day, I finally got a personal guided tour by a general officer and a big stud member of the 82nd Airborne Army Ranger. For those of you who have friends or maybe subscribe to the conspiracy theory, this gentleman, this member of the 82nd Airborne was there on that Tuesday morning. He carried out dead bodies. He carried out pieces of that 757 jet that collided into the Pentagon, putting the conspiracy theories to rest once and for all. And so we end our little kind of tour and we show up at this memorial chapel. And I finally got a chance to ask questions that I'd always had. General, why, when this is a tourist attraction, why is this memorial chapel so small? And he said, because right here in this exact spot is where the nose of that 757 jet crashed into the Pentagon that day. And this is the exact office of the government employee who worked there for 50 years. And this particular morning, September 11th, 2001, was the first day that this gentleman who had worked at the Pentagon for 50 years, it was his first day out of the building. He had never called in sick one day. He had never taken one day off for a vacation and had never missed one day of work. And that morning, he was not in his office. And he was on the jet. That day, he took his first vacation day and drove to Dulles Airport, where he caught that jet that was hijacked, hung a U-turn, and crashed into the Pentagon into his office. So again, we don't have a definitive answer of whether or not our days are numbered. But you know what that experience did for me? I'm 60 years old. I'm old. I bend over to pull up my socks and I think, what else can I accomplish while I'm way down here? I go to bed healthy and I wake up injured, and all I did was lay there. Is that starting to happen to any of you? I wake up, my hip's asleep, my foot hurts. I'm like, hey, what's going on around here? Starting to stretch out in case something happens to me at 2 a.m. But because of that experience, I wake up every morning much earlier without an alarm clock. I stay up much later. I realistically only need 4.5 to maximum 5 hours of sleep a night. I've written 9 new books. I have 34 books. This video is so obsolete, but it's okay to show it because I wanted to refer to my experience up into space so you could see the little, John in my spacesuit. But I've written 34 books. I've written 9 books in the last 15 months. People are like, how do you do it? I wake up early, I stay up late. I get on an airplane for 4 hours from here to Atlanta. Nobody can get a hold of me. Instead of watching some lame movie that doesn't change my life at all, I hunker down. I listen to podcasts. I try to better myself. I have 4 children, and the whole entire MO of our parenting was the only person you have to be better than is the person you were yesterday. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do with that experience that I just shared? I've taught public speaking now for 10 years. My first experience as a university professor was Michael Glauser, who started the entrepreneurship program at Westminster College, an amazing college in Salt Lake City, Utah. Michael Glauser is well respected all over the world. I've spoken in 61 countries. You'd be surprised how many countries. Philippines, other countries, Australia, who know the name of Michael Glauser, who subscribe to his lessons of leadership and entrepreneurship that he promulgates through his amazing books. He gave me an opportunity to teach public speaking 3 years. I'm at Westminster, then I teach at UVU, then I taught at BYU, which is cool because I'm a Ute, so I always showed up in a red tie. And now I teach at the University of Utah. You know what I teach my students? You don't prepare a speech, you prepare yourself to speak. And my last lecture was always, my final examination was always what I called the last lecture. If you had 1 hour to live, what would you do? What would you say to someone? What would you drive 5.5 hours one way to say to somebody for free? Is your conviction that deep? Do you believe that what you've experienced is that meaningful? Would you share it? And if not, why not? And if when, why not now? And so my very first class, I have this young girl who paid for her college by riding shotgun in an EMT. She was a first responder riding shotgun in an ambulance. And how did she start her speech? I was so proud because I always teach everybody the quickest way to engage someone in conversation is to ask them a question. Why you cannot not answer a question. How did she start her speech? We knew from her introduction that she was a first responder, that she was an emergency medical technician, that she rode in an ambulance. How did she start her speech? You ever seen anybody die? Pause, pause, pause. Let us squirm, squirm, squirm. She says, I have. She said, I was called out on an emergency and our ambulance pulled up to the scene of the accident. There was a young 17-year-old boy who had just been speeding on his motorcycle, hit a tree without any helmet on. She said, I was cuddling him in my arms when he took his last breath. And then she asked all of us in the class, all 36 of us, my question, did his life matter? He was 17 years old. Did his life matter? And I'm going to tell you my story of how I got into public speaking and turned this into a pretty good operation, multi-million-dollar operation with 7 offices around North America. It's an entrepreneurial story that's worth hearing. But the part I want you to know about right now is I was invited into the Reagan White House, Mrs. Reagan's Just Say No program. And in that experience, I traveled the country and spoke to thousands and thousands of high schools in all 50 states. So between 1983 and 1989, I spoke to over 6 million teenagers. Changed my life forever. And as the reputation grew, I was invited to come into high schools, but middle schools and junior high schools and then elementary schools. So my gosh, I had to figure out a way to practice what I preached and engage them in conversation. So I'd go into a high school and I'd say, how many of you are freshmen? How many of you are freshmen? Let's play this game. How many of you are freshmen? Yeah, these guys on the front row, please don't lock me in a locker. That's what happened in high school. Why are you doing this again? And I would say, you like being a freshman? What do they usually say? No, I would always say, may I suggest that you from now on and forevermore say, yes, I love being a freshman. Why? You have no other choice. You better be the best freshman you are or you ain't going to be a sophomore. And if you're like me, I was a freshman like 9 times. I had to get it down right. You like being a sophomore with the sophomores? At least I'm not a freshman. You like being a sophomore? No. May I make a suggestion? You better say yes. Why? You have no other choice. If you don't like being 15, how in the world do you think you're going to be happy and successful and fired up as a 16-year-old? We have a tendency to want to live somewhere other than we are. You'll hear it from speaker after speaker. Be present in the moment. You get to be present in the moment. What if your present sucks? If your present sucks, you will live in your past or you'll live in your future, which means you will never become better today than you were yesterday, and you will die with your music still in you. If you remember nothing else I say tonight, it doesn't matter how old you are. There's a difference between growing older and growing up. If I'm 60 and I lie in bed for one full year and don't do one flipping thing, I'm going to turn 61. Big whoop. If you're 19 and you lie in bed for one full year and turn 20, or if you don't do anything with your life right now because you can, shame on all of us. Does your life matter? We've got to stop living in the future. When I finally graduate, I'll pull my head out. When I finally have this degree, when I finally get my MBA, then I can get the job of my dreams instead of the job that's left over. That may be true in the job market, but what about living life to the fullest so you don't die with your music still in you? Isn't the purpose of a relationship to have everybody leave us saying, I like me best when I'm with you, I want to see you again? Mr. Bingham, I like me best when I'm with you, I want to see you again. And what does that require? That we just bring out the best in one another so that everybody leaves saying, gosh, we really do become the average of the 5 people we associate with the most. Which means if you hang around with 5 broke people, you're going to become the 6th. If you hang around with 5 negative whining people, you're going to become the 6th. And if you have horses, I'm in Logan, come on, come clean. And have you ever seen a horse? Tough crowd. Do you realize when you put a hard to catch horse in the same field with an easy to catch horse, most of the time you end up with 2 hard to catch horses? And in the human experience, when you put a healthy child in the same room with a sick child, most of the time you end up with 2 sick children. Moral of the story, to be disciplined, healthy, and significant, we must be willing to pay any price and travel any distance to associate with extraordinary human beings. And an extraordinary human being is someone who allows us, because of our conversation and our deep connection, to leave each other saying, I like me best when I'm with you, I want to see you again. That this one moment in my life mattered. That I might leave tonight and I might get hit by a bus driving down Sardine Canyon. It's happened before. I might get another speeding ticket going through Manoa, or however the heck you say that little town. And if I get pulled over tonight, there's a really good chance that somebody's going to die. That was a joke. We don't know. So I better be the best I can be right now and leave it all on the stage. You better be the best you can be right now, because we do not know. But the good news is you're supposed to be here. You're born to succeed. You're born to make your life everything that you dream it to be. And that's what I want to talk about. So I just want to share some stories and ask you to plug in how that relates to an entrepreneurial mindset. Because what we discussed earlier this evening, when I had a chance to talk to a room full of MBAs who are also in the entrepreneurial program, Dan Clark 6:2 says it's not about entrepreneurship that only exclusively works with the business community, or coming up with a great idea that satisfies a niche and coming up with an amazing swimwear company, Nani. I couldn't help but just reflect on my own experience. You know, I'll go to a Cancun resort and the beach is so packed, and I'll go put on a Speedo and come out. Suddenly it's an exclusive resort. I have no one around. I relate to these swimsuits. This is cool. This is great. I think I'm going to start my own idea. This is cool. Let me share some stories. Your challenge is to figure out how it relates to your life. Fair? Story number 1. I had a chance to soar to the edge of space in a U-2 reconnaissance plane. That doesn't happen to a whole lot of folks. And because it's a classified mission, I can only tell you that at 70,000 feet above the Earth's surface, you see 2/3 of the state of California. At 80,000 feet, you see mapped outlines of America. And at 90,000 feet, you actually feel like you can reach out and touch the face of God. It's a spiritual experience I wish every one of you could have. And now you know I'm a little twisted, so I'm sitting there in the sounds of silence, looking at the curvature of the earth, gazing into the endless blackness of space, pondering eternity and how I fit in. And it occurred to me, I'm looking around going, you know what, if we're the only ones here, this sure is a lot of wasted space. And I had deep thoughts, deeper thoughts than I've ever had in my whole entire life. Could we be more than mere mortal beings living on a small planet for a short season? What's it really all about? And when we landed, do you know what occurred to me? Everything we can take with us when we die, I had aboard with me on that aircraft. Is this too deep? 4 things we can take with us when we die. Number 1, our education. You're in an educational experience right now here at USU. But here's the reality. We don't learn to know, we learn to do. Knowledge is power, but knowledge has no heart. All the information in the world is going to make a person successful. It's like the guy who has 3 PhDs. 1 in philosophy, 1 in psychology, 1 in sociology. He doesn't have a job, but at least he can explain why. The second thing we can take with us when we die is our character. Adversity introduces us to ourselves. No one will ever know how good you are until you're tested. No one will ever know how strong we are until being strong is our only choice. Are you with me? My story. I played football for 13 years total. One day in practice, the dream ended. We had a tackling drill. Coach blew the whistle. 2 of us ran into each other full speed. Only parts of our bodies that made contact, Lyle's helmet crashed into my helmet. 15 yards apart, head-on collision. My right shoulder was smashed into the cutting edge of my fiberglass pads and we slammed to the ground. And when Lyle got off of me, my eye drooped. I had loss of speech. I couldn't talk anymore. My right side was paralyzed. My arm dangled helplessly at my side. Coach comes running over. Clark, you all right? What happened? He says, whoa, are you from Smithfield? I'm just kidding you. Perfect. Now I'm going to get hate mail. He said, you better just lay there. I said, whoa. A doctor that was present on the field, he came over and he examined me. He pulls the coach aside. He says, Clark's got serious nerve damage. In fact, he might even have serious brain damage. The coach looks at him and says, how will we ever know? Finally, my eye went back to normal. My speech came back. I could talk again. But my right side stayed paralyzed. My arm dangled at my side. I talked to him and it wouldn't move. It scared me to death. And yeah, it was a physical injury, but it affected my whole life. How could that be? I couldn't write anymore. I was right-handed. I couldn't think and concentrate on doing any work or going back to school, or it hurt too much. I used to get these little electrical impulses. Felt like somebody plugged my arm into an electric socket. I went home to a family dinner. I'm sitting there at the dinner table, and all of a sudden my arm goes swing. I knocked a bowl of mayonnaise off the table about 20 feet. Next meal, my younger brother shows up wearing a batting helmet and goggles. You passed me the butter. And my life hit rock bottom and I didn't think I could get up and go again. And yes, let's go public. I had suicidal thoughts. I was at the top of my game. And in one moment in time, I lost my identity. And now that I've recovered, people ask me interesting questions. Clark, what took you so long to get better? Isn't that a great question for all of us? If you're going to get better, what are you waiting for? What's holding you back? You know what held me back? 2 things. Number 1, I confused who I was with what I did. Have you? Are you? You see, I thought I was a football player when in reality that's just what I did. It's not who I am as a man. And when we identify ourselves in terms of what we do instead of who we are, we become a human doing instead of a human being. Unacceptable of significance is what we seek. And the second reason why I stayed paralyzed was because I was confused about this word, this predicament that we all refer to as depression. There are people in our world, people in this room, who have been clinically diagnosed by a physician as being depressed because they have a chemical imbalance. And for those of our loved ones and our friends and coworkers and those who perhaps are in this auditorium this evening, what people need who are clinically diagnosed as being depressed, they need medication. More importantly, they need non-judgmental friendship and unconditional love. We need to be there for them. But most of us just flippantly use that word depressed when we are not depressed. You see, when I had this violent head-on collision with my teammate, I didn't suddenly get a chemical imbalance. There's a giant difference between being depressed and being disappointed. There's a huge difference between being depressed and being discouraged or being sad. And when we're disappointed or discouraged or sad, we don't need medication. We need fired up dreams. We need friends who say, Clark, you can't quit. It's a league rule. Get knocked down 7 times, get back up 8. That's entrepreneurship. That's what you are about. That's what attracted you to this class, to this major, to this experience with the tutelage and guidance of a Michael Glauser, who's a national treasure. He's an expert. You are in so much, you're the envy of so many students around this country. You actually get to interact with each other and understand what he teaches. You get it. But what I want to plead with you to do is not just apply it to coming up with some great entrepreneurial idea that will make you money. Apply what you know and what you're learning to your everyday life. So every day you become better today than you were yesterday, so you don't die with your music still in you. Being an entrepreneur is exciting. And you can make millions of dollars. Can't we, Marissa? A few weeks ago, I'm on the program in San Diego with the entrepreneur who invented the Thigh Master. Most of you aren't old enough to realize what I'm doing up here. But he had these national commercials with an actress, Suzanne Summers. It's a Thigh Master, this little deal. And the same dude who invented the Thigh Master in the same year invented the mood ring. Made millions and millions of dollars. And I'm sitting there going, I got to follow this guy. So I'm introduced. What did I do? I came out on stage and I'm like, yeah, that stuff really worked, man. Once you got started, it's kind of hard to stop. And everybody starts giggling. And I said, but I really want to thank you for that mood ring. Because I bought one of those for my wife. Because I wanted to kind of know how she was thinking and feeling at all times. I said it worked perfectly. When she was in a good mood, it turned blue. When she was in a bad mood, it left a red mark on my forehead. And he starts laughing. Man, where were you when I was marketing this? That was brilliant. I'm like, that's true, dude. Thanks a lot. What you're experiencing is life personified. It's not about just business. You gotta apply what you know to be true and what you're learning every day in class to life. And that's what's going to allow you to stand out in the crowd. And I've been involved with Chicken Soup for the Soul since day one. So some of you have read the book, The Secret. Some of you have seen the movie. I'm stopped so often. Clark, what's the secret? What's the secret? I'm going to write a new book. There's no secret. The law of attraction is defined as we attract what we believe we deserve. Who's in your life right now? If we become the average of the 5 people we associate with the most, and you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. If you're in a room where everybody thinks the same, nobody's really thinking at all. Entrepreneurship 101 is to think differently, to act accordingly, and to be unafraid to be bold without overbearance and do what you need to do because nobody else thinks you can. So now that I've recovered, everybody says, Clark, how did you recover? Well, it was simple. I stayed paralyzed for 14 months because I was asking the wrong questions. I was asking the doctors how to get better when I should have been asking myself why. And once we answer why, figuring out the how-to is pretty simple. So, why are you here tonight? Why are you at Utah State? Why are you sitting next to this person? You might think it's random. In my experience, things happen for a reason, but it's our responsibility to determine what that reason is. And just maybe, this total perfect stranger is sitting next to you who is the answer to your prayer, the connection between you and somebody you need to meet who will introduce you to somebody else. Remember, this is entrepreneurship, which means thoughts are things according to Think and Grow Rich. Thoughts are things according to Napoleon Hill. Let's talk. The third thing we can take with us when we die is our convictions. What do you believe? And let me just throw out food for thought. Do you agree that some things are true whether you believe them or not? Do you agree everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but nobody's entitled to the wrong facts? And do you agree that we shouldn't believe everything that we think? I'll just leave it at that. We got to move on. Fourth thing we can take with us when we die, which I think is the most important, it's the memory of whether or not our lives matter. Did you make a difference or just a living? Did you contribute to everyone's life? And the way we do that is to introduce you to another part of my life which I love the most. And that's my world of music. Are any of you musicians? Very cool. If someone asked you how many notes are there in music, most would respond, there are 7 notes in music, because all of us musicians and non-musicians can revert back to our childhood do, re, mi days and count. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Most respond, there are 7 notes in music. So I shared with the MBA students tonight, Contraire mon frère, in the year 1685, a very famous music composer in Western Europe decides he wants more options. He's the guy that put the black keys on the piano. So if you look at the 88 keys on a keyboard, there are 7 white notes and 5 black notes, a total of 12 notes in music. And those 12 notes repeat themselves every 12 notes. It's what we call an octave. And based on the chromatic scale, which is the system that we use to write music, it's a cool system because it allows you to play the music that we've written. What does that have to do with you, and especially the rules and qualities and character traits of entrepreneurship? Everything. Why? Every song ever written was written with the same 12 notes. Do you know this? The only difference between one song and another song is the order in which those 12 notes fall and the timing and spacing in between the notes. I wish when I came up here, I didn't even know there was a piano. We could have had a great laugh out here. I would have probably taken away too much time. But if I had the piano out here, I could put on a magnificent display from the world of music to make my point. I could play a Rachmaninoff piano concerto using all 88 keys on the piano. I could play a little Wynton Marsalis smooth jazz. I'm a rhythm and blues guitar player. I could play a little Stevie Ray Vaughan, a little B.B. King. I could play a country ballad. Like my wife ran off with my best friend, and I'm going to miss him dearly. Every single one of these songs was written with the same 12 notes. So here's the question of the night. As it applies to entrepreneurship, what's the difference between a hit songwriter and a lousy songwriter that have access to the same 12 notes? What's the difference between a great banker and a lousy banker? They have access to the same interest rates and the same economy. I drive 45 minutes one way, Morgan, Utah, to bank at First National Bank of Morgan. And never once have I ever asked what the interest rates are on my loans. If money becomes the topic of conversation, it means the presentation is weak and the relationship is non-existent. In entrepreneurship, there's no such thing as a financial crisis, only an idea crisis. Ideas create income. What's the difference between a successful entrepreneur who pulls it off, Marissa, and someone who just spends their life thinking and hoping? Write this down. Hope is not a method. French philosopher Pascal, he said, too many live their lives hoping to be happy, but because they only hope, they never really are. They're waiting for somebody to ask them to the senior prom, and they've never even taken the time to learn how to dance. You got to have faith. No, faith without works is not faith at all. We need trust and predictability. We need to take action so people can actually rely on us and show that we're honest and trustworthy so that we will do it again. It's so critically important that we just simplify what you're learning as entrepreneurs and then figuring out a way to apply it to your everyday life to help you become the best you can be. Growing up, my dad always said, be the very best version of yourself. You're going to make a lousy somebody else. May I interrupt? A couple of years ago, I was a keynote speaker at a national convention for eating disorders. Because I'm a professional speaker, I did my due diligence. I read up, tried to learn everything I could possibly learn about anorexia and bulimia. I show up to this national convention in Buffalo, New York, huge convention, thousands. And the people before me kept referring to it as an eating disorder. And when I stood up to speak, I said, it's not an eating disorder. It has nothing to do with food. And so tactfully, I interacted with the young lady in the audience. May I do that? What is your name?
I'm Hea.
Hi, Hea. Nice to meet you. I just want you to answer the questions. You don't even have to answer. I just want to get some eye contact. Hey, are you tall? Are you short? Are you wide? Are you thin? Are you fast? Are you slow? Are you smart? Are you stupid? Are you beautiful or you're not? Are you pretty or are you pretty ugly? Says who? Compared to what? If somehow we could transport Hea into that deserted island where she had no access to fashion magazines, no access to those Photoshop Twiggy models that are non-existent, would she suddenly love you just the way you are? Would you be this strong, confident, amazing woman? Absolutely. You are supposed to be here, my friends. And you're supposed to be the best you that you can be. Not competing against someone else, comparing ourselves against someone else or some other thing. It's so critically important that this message comes through because you're entrepreneurs, which means no matter what happens, you will figure it out. End of discussion. That's my definition of entrepreneurship, and I want it to be your definition of entrepreneurship. No matter what happens, I will figure it out. Together we will rise. So no matter what happens in your life, personally, physically, mentally, spiritually, it does not matter. You will get back up and be resilient and go again. Why? Because you can. Music. What is the difference between a hit songwriter and a lousy songwriter? The answer is the same for all of us. Passion, creativity, and imagination. So if we become the average of the 5 people we associate with the most, and we must be willing to pay any price and travel any distance to associate with extraordinary human beings. What's an extraordinary human being? Someone who triggers more passion, creativity, and imagination. If that's not an entrepreneur, I don't know what is. Congratulations, you are that person I'm talking about. And to make my point, may I just drag you into my favorite world of country music? Any of you into country music? Now we're talking. I had my first gold record in country music with a guy by the name of Michael Peterson. We wrote a song called Drink, Swear, Steal, and Lie. Yeah, I'm an inspirational genius. I teamed up with another great songwriter, Don Schlitz. He wrote You Say It Best When You Say Nothing at All. That's a good song. He wrote The Gambler for Kenny Rogers. He and I teamed up, put Kenny Rogers back on the charts. A little boy in his baseball hat stands in a field with his ball and bat. He says, I'm the greatest. He throws his ball up, swings, misses strike 1, throws his ball up, swings, misses strike 2, throws his ball up, swings, misses strike 3. He's out. What does he say? Man, am I a good pitcher. That's a good song. You need to watch that music video. I need the money. Isn't that interesting that Marissa's given the microphone? Please share one thing that helped you succeed in putting together this amazing swimwear company, Nani. And what did Marissa say? It's about passion. And I'm sitting there going, keep going, girl. Passion, creativity, and imagination. My very best love song so far, it's called Real Man. Visualize Faith Hill singing it, not me. Lyrics, I need a man who knows happily ever after is a day-at-a-time proposition. A man who knows making love is not a 3-minute composition. It's a slow dance full of romance, a walk on the beach in the sand. It's having a whole conversation just by holding my hand. He would stir deep desire that sets me on fire to be with them all that I can. No, I won't settle for anything less than a real man. Chorus, a real man strong in stature, firm in faith, and kisses slow. He sometimes cries, and when we hug, he's the last one to let go. Worshiping the ground I walk on, he's my biggest fan. There's nothing like being loved by a real man. Most of you women are looking at me like, This whole group right here, you're looking at me like, do you mind if I smoke? You know, they're like, hey, Dan, could you repeat that one chorus part, please? And most of you gentlemen are looking at me like, oh, perfect. I was interviewed on country radio in Nashville, Tennessee. They said, how does a linebacker write a song like that? I said, it was easy. I made a list of things I wasn't. And I decided I could become them. Not because it's expected by others, but because it's demanded of myself. Because I'm hanging around with the right people who inspire me to have that entrepreneurial attitude towards everything in life. Fix it. Find a niche. Fill the niche. Fix it. And if you have to start with the Thigh Master, go for it. Just don't tell your friends. Man, I've got so many stories I want to share. Let me get to another one. Again, your assignment, you apply it to your life. You figure out how this applies to you, leaving here being different for the rest of your life, not because it's expected by others, but because it's demanded of yourself. I've worked with most of the teams in the National Football League. And I'm paid huge dollars to go in and say something to these elite athletes that would inspire them to take themselves to the next level. That's more than semantics. Think about how I just phrased that. I'm paid big money to say something to these elite athletes that will inspire them to take themselves to the next level. Why? You cannot coach results. You can only coach behavior. If I'm your dad, I can't say, go be a good boy, go be a good girl, go get good grades in school. What the heck does that mean? My parents tried that on me. It did not work. But my dad got me. One time I came home with a report card, had 4 F's and 1 D on it. My dad's response, son, looks to me like you're spending too much time on one subject. My mom thought I cheated. Some of you, it'll come to you like in an hour, you're like, hey, that's funny. So walk with me into an NFL team meeting. 53 elite athletes who collectively represent over $105 million in annual salary. That's sick. What would you say to them? Let's play some question and answers. Can you motivate them with money? Who says yes? Who says no? Defend. What's your name? Michael, tell us why. Stand up. Why can't you motivate them with money?
So the reason you can't motivate them with money is they already have the money. They've already got all of the performance clauses in there, and if that doesn't motivate them, then you say about money won't.
That's so true. And may I add to that? Money can't be a motivator, because if it is, you'll run out of money, which means eventually you'll run out of motivation. And for the record, 78% of professional football players are bankrupt within 3 years after retirement. If you can't motivate them with money, can you motivate them with benefits and bonuses? Do you realize how many people refuse to quit their current job because they're afraid they're going to lose their insurance? And my attitude as an entrepreneur is just make more money and buy your own insurance. And now my premiums have gone so sky high, I don't even know what I'm going to do. But I got to have insurance. If you can't motivate them with money and you can't motivate them with benefits and bonuses, can you motivate them with awards and rewards? Is MBA behind your name an award reward? Is college graduate an award or reward? Yeah. If that's all that's motivating you, that's like saying, as soon as I get married, I'm going to be happy. In my experience, if you're not happy single, you can't be happy married. We've got to start focusing on right now. Remember the 17-year-old motorcycle accident? Did his life matter? Let's do whatever we need to do, no matter how old we are, to make our lives matter. And stop comparing ourselves. My gosh, every time I see Glauser, I am so insecure. His hair has not moved since 1977. He goes out in the windy Logan, Utah, and it does not move. It's like, poof. And I'm losing my hair right here. I'm growing it in places I don't even need it. It's not a fair trade-off. My only hope is that the hair in my right ear will grow long enough I can comb it up over the top of my head and fake all of you out. So the good news is what motivates these 53 elite athletes is the same thing that motivates you and me. Not money, not benefits and bonuses, and definitely not awards and rewards. Not destinations. I did this, check the box, wrong, way overrated. The only thing that motivates them is the same thing that motivates you and me, expectations. Here's the object lesson. It's brilliant, I think. As the meeting begins, I ask a captain of the team and assistant coach to stand in front of the team meeting, and they hold a broomstick 12 inches off the floor. And ahead of time, I get the name of the most gifted, talented football player on the whole squad who can jump 38 inches high. You know how high that is? Without getting any running start, no inertia, they just stand there and go, jump, eat a Big Mac, drink a Diet Coke before they land. You're like, dude. For the record, every single one of the 32 NFL teams has at least one player on their roster who can jump 38 inches high. J.J. Watt, Houston Texans, a hero to all of us. He's bigger than me. He's 6'9", 295. He can jump 38 inches high. Julius Peppers, number 56, Green Bay Packers, but he was with the Panthers. Now he's back with the Panthers. Freak of nature. He can jump 38 inches high. Tim Tebow, highest paid fourth-string quarterback in the history of the National Football League. He's my size, 6'5", about 235. He can jump 38 inches high. Prima Donna man's always on the back row of the team meeting, so I call him out by name, and his reaction's always the same. Why did you wake me up? Don't you know who I am? Don't you read my newspaper clippings? Why are you bothering me? So I encourage him out, and sure enough, takes him 22 and a half minutes to walk to the front of the room. Passes by a little rookie. Did he sit on something hot? No, he just thinks he's Superfly. He finally gets to the front of the room. Captain, assistant coach, holding a broomstick 12 inches off the floor. Superstar, prima donna is now in front, and I engage him in conversation. Hey, you think you can jump over that 12-inch high broomstick? His reaction's always the same. Why are you bothering me? Are you stupid? So I changed the question. Will you jump over that 12-inch high broomstick? His response is always the same. He pacifies me, skips over the bar, stares me down, so I stare back. And here's where the teaching begins. Why did you only jump 12 inches high when you and your teammates know you can jump 38 inches high? And his answer is always the same. Because that's all you asked me to do. How high's your bar? Do you realize right now, everyone with whom you live, everyone with whom you work, everyone with whom you go to school, everyone with whom you perhaps worship, they know how high your bar is because they see it every single day. But only you know if you're pushing yourself as hard as you possibly can. Only you know how high your bar should be. Only you know if you're pushing yourself to your ultimate capacity and potential as a human being. Not because it's expected by others, but because it's demanded of ourselves. Now let's talk about creating trust. In the world of entrepreneurship, the definition of sales is the transference of trust. Why should I trust you to invest in your business? Why should I trust you to deliver this product and service? Why should I trust you for any reason under the sun? The definition of sales is the transference of trust. Be loyal to those who are not present, Steve Covey taught us. If we break for lunch tomorrow and we're all sitting around a round table, and one person at that table out of 5 starts gossiping and bad-mouthing someone who is not at that table, and then we disperse to go our own separate ways, what do we all think? I wonder what he or she's going to say about me when I'm not around. The transference of trust, and how does that relate to my broomstick test? If I know that you can jump 30 inches high, and you continuously only jump 22 inches, I will never trust you. I'll be nice. I won't gossip or badmouth you. I won't try to put you down to make myself feel better about who I am. I'm not that insecure. But when it comes time for me to be the captain to pick my team, you ain't my choice. You're wonderful for somebody else's team. Trust is created and developed and most importantly sustained and maintained through high performance at our peak performance potential level. So you can't motivate anybody. I'm so glad I wasn't introduced as a motivational speaker. These guys are shallow. They show up, they say the stupidest things. We become what we think about. That's not true. If that was true, I'd have been a woman by the time I was 12 years old. I want to be an inspirational speaker. Because inspiration seems to indicate that the message will outlast the meeting. Duh. My message is for you to leave here tonight different than you've ever been, not to remember my name. And then be curious enough to figure out who you were sitting next to and why that happened. And what could you learn from one another, especially the strangers in this room who shouldn't be strangers at all, because our commonality is entrepreneurship. Our commonality is passion, creativity, and imagination. Our commonality is, my gosh, no matter what my past has been, I have a spotless future. And for the grace of God, I can be all that I was born to be before I take my last breath. So I don't die with my music still in me. I had a great conversation with a football teammate of mine that also changed my life. He was drafted into the National Football League in the second round by the Philadelphia Eagles. After 2 years at the Eagles, he's traded to my Oakland Raiders. After 4 years in the National Football League, playing at the top level, at the highest point of the game, one day he walks out of practice, quits, never to play again. Why? He loved being a football player, but he hated playing football. He got what he wanted, but he hated what he got. He loved the celebrity perks and the fame and fortune that allowed him to live this life we call successful. And what is successful? It's always competing and comparing against somebody else. I can drive this car and I'll be somebody cool. I can wear this outfit. I can buy this house. I can live in this neighborhood. I can have this toy. I can go on this exotic vacation. Success is a limited belief. God bless Covey. I've known him since 1975 when he passed away. God rest his soul. He was a genius that transformed the way we think. But you realize beginning with the end in mind is a limiting belief? He wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Great book, eh? How many of you have read that book? Yeah, I devoured it. And now publicly I can stand up and I can admit I've got 4 of the 7 habits down. And after he writes The 7 Habits, he comes out with his next book. It's called The 8th Habit. I immediately sat down. I emailed him, calm down. We don't need any more freaking habits. I'm working on the first 7, man. Take a vacation. But begin with the end in mind. It's been so popular, but it creates a limiting belief. Why? When you begin with the end in mind, it forces you to focus on a destination that's impressive. Whoa, successful. Look at me. Look what I've done. Look at my degrees. Look at this. Look at that. And do our best, try our best to manage people and reward results. Good job. Now what though? What would happen if you begin with the why in mind? Which forces us and allows us and inspires us to focus on a journey that's important so that we manage expectations and we reward effort, which means the focus is on becoming better today than we were yesterday. Not because it's expected by others, but because it's demanded of ourselves. That's a pretty cool proposition, I think, especially if you're thinking like an entrepreneur, which we all are. So, next story. My dad battled cancer for 6.5 years. For some reason, I wanted to be by his bedside when he took his last breath, and that didn't happen for me. I was up in Seattle, Washington, the Northwest United States. I was in town for 2 days to make 2 speeches to 2 large trade associations downtown at the convention center. I'm staying out of town at the Seattle Airport Marriott Hotel. It's Friday morning, October 12th. I've showered, I've shaved, put on my coat, put on my tie. I'm ready for the day. Phone rings. I think it's my ride downtown to the convention center, so I pick up the phone and I almost flippantly say, I'll be right there. But for some odd reason, I just stood there. 15 seconds of silence later, my younger brother's voice pierced the quietness of the call. Danny? I said, what's up, Paul? He said, Dad died this morning at 7 a.m. I said, whoa. I sat down on the edge of my bed and the tears just started to fall. Let me interrupt. I'd give anything to have my dad back one more day. One of the best songs I ever wrote used to get a lot of radio play. It was called Special Man. I wrote it about my dad. lyrical hook. Any male can be a father, but it takes a special man to be a dad. That's my dad, my hero, gone. I'd give anything to have him back one more day, but it's too late. I have regrets. I don't wish regrets on anyone. As an author, I love to interview people. My favorite interview is always with an elderly person. Elderly meaning someone older than me. They will always remind us they do not have regrets for things they did do. They only have regrets for things they did not do. Will you, even at age 17, 18, 19, 20, 60? I said to my brother, how's mom? He said, she's all right. I said, give her a big hug and a kiss for me. Will you please tell her I'll phone her as quickly as I can? And then he asked me the gajillion-dollar question. What are you going to do? So let's turn that into entrepreneurship thinking. Competitive advantage is not created by doing more than your competition. Competitive advantage is created by doing what your competition is not willing to do. Everybody wants to win, but very few of us are willing to prepare to win. Under pressure, you don't step up your game. You succumb to the level of your preparation, training, and practice. Which means pressure is not something that is naturally there. It's created when you question your own ability. When you know what you've been trained to do, there's never any question. Which means you have the guts to run towards the sound of the guns. Not because it's expected by others, but because it's demanded of yourself. That's why we train and practice so hard. If you're ever going to give up, I don't want you to give up during a game. I want you to give up during practice. That's why we train and practice so hard. Are you with me? So my brother says, what are you going to do? I said, well, Dad and Mom have spent an entire lifetime teaching us to keep our promises, to keep our commitments. So I can't imagine what it would be like to be a meeting planner with a 90-minute slot to fill 3,500 people in the audience and not have the speaker show. I got to go keep that commitment. That's what Dad would want me to do. I got to protect his good name and what he taught us to do. I said, and then I'm going to spend the night. I'm going to speak on Saturday, keep that promise, keep that commitment. Then I'm going to hustle home. God knows I need your support, and hopefully I can give you some of mine. I hung up the phone with my brother, and I sat there in my hotel room, and I openly wept like a wee child. This is my dad, seriously my hero, gone. 15 minutes later, the phone rings again. This time it is my ride. I tell him I'll be right down. I go into the washroom. I splash some water on my face, try to freshen up to the best of my ability. I leave my hotel room, and I get on the elevator. And as I get onto the hotel elevator and take my position in the back of the elevator and assume the elevator position, suddenly the doors start to close and I'm just comfortable until all of a sudden they bing back open. And on the elevator comes this way overzealous psycho bellman, pushing his runaway cart onto the elevator, forces me again back to the other corner of the elevator, and I again assume the elevator position while the doors close. And as we start to go down, he is relentless. Woo! Did you see the beautiful sunshine? He said, I've lived up here in Seattle, Washington, 15 years, rained every single day. You must have brought the good weather with you. How you doing? I said, I'm fine. You know when someone's been staring at you for a while and you don't even have to get eye contact, you can just kind of feel it, just kind of sense it. All of a sudden he says, hey, mister, you're not fine. You've been crying. I said, yeah. I said, I just found out my dad died this morning and I'm really sad. He said, whoa. Elevator comes to the lobby, doors open, he goes his way, I meet my ride. He drives me downtown to the convention center. I'm introduced and I make my speech. I had to dig deeper than I'd ever dug in my whole entire life to make that speech, but you can if you think you can. Entrepreneurship 101. I got to the end of my speech and I said to the audience, I'd like to conclude with a little song from one of my albums. I said, the reason why I want to sing this little song is because my dad died this morning, and it's the first time he's ever heard me sing it in public. And again, I dug deeper than I'd ever dug and maybe sang the song better than I'd ever sung it. I concluded my speech, and I had the driver take me to the Seattle Aquarium. Am I now a hypocrite? Entrepreneurs, find the niche. No matter what happens, get knocked down 7 times, get back up 8. We can, if we think we can, get up and go again. There's always a way, just find it. And now I'm wussing out. I can't handle it. Give me a cocktail. No, I had the driver take me to the Seattle Aquarium to create a meeting. You see why I said yes when Glauser calls and says, will you come up here? It's cold up here. You guys are so accustomed to this. It's the middle of the afternoon. I get out of my car. I take a deep breath and my nostrils stuck together. Now, I'm a country songwriter and I sounded like Willie Nelson, so I'm like, this can't be all bad. But we got better things to do or other things to do. Maybe not better things to do, at least not for me. I believe in this. Where out of your busy schedules, and some of you had to get off work perhaps, we're gathered here tonight. We got to make the best of it. I better come with a message that at least I think will outlast the evening. Right? I had the driver take me to the Seattle Aquarium because I understand the significance of a meeting where we get away from family deadlines or distractions, work deadlines or distractions, and we can focus and ask better questions where we get better answers and leave differently than we were when we arrived. Isn't that the whole purpose we're here? I hope so. That's why I'm here. So I'm watching the fish swim. I'm watching the otters float on their backs. They reminded me of some of the offensive linemen I used to play against that played at BYU. Sorry, I had to get that in. And that's when I started understanding that pain is a signal to grow, not to suffer. Once you learn the lesson the pain teaches you, the pain goes away. In life, there's no mistakes, only lessons. It's when I realized crisis does not make or break the man or woman. It just reveals the true character within. That's when I started realizing that there's significance and power in words. And that I don't want to die with my music still in me. And I definitely don't want to just get what I want and be successful. I want to get what I want and then want what I get. See my football teammate? He loved being a football player, but he hated playing football. He got what he wanted, but because his inner voice and his true purpose in life was misaligned with who he was and what he did, he would never enjoy a life of significance and would die with his music still in him. Having learned these profound lessons, I had the driver take me back from the Seattle Aquarium to the Seattle Airport Marriott Hotel. And here's where you come into my evening, where you come into my story. Hopefully it will prime the pump for a couple of questions before I get through flapping my jaws. I walk into my hotel room, and there on the dresser of drawers is a basket of fruit. And it's not your basic basket of fruit that's been delivered from the hotel gift shop. We've all seen these little color cellophane, little bow, little sterile stamp card. They never get our names right. Thanks for staying with us, Sergio. This was the coolest gift I'd ever received. It was a broken, smushed basket. One side was completely caved in. It looked like it was somebody's afterthought. Maybe after hours, no resources available, but they still wanted to make a difference. Can any of you relate? I can see this hotel employee walking through the lobby. They look in the garbage bin. They're like, oh, whoa, that's too good to throw away. Whoa, Michael Glauser will be really proud of us. Do more with less. They retrieved it. They took it to my hotel room, and whoever delivered it was obviously into presentation because they turned the broken, smushed part of the basket towards the wall. Whoever delivered it apparently walked past the big fake tree in the lobby, yanked off one of those fine plastic leaves, stuck that in front of the broken, smushed part of the basket. In my basket of fruit, there was a tomato and a big carrot and a handwritten card that said, Mr. Clark, I'm sure sorry your dad died. I'm supposed to get off work at 5 o'clock. I've asked to stay on all night long so I can be here just for you. Room service closes at 10 o'clock. The kitchen has agreed to stay open all night long so they can be here just for you. If you need anything, just call and ask for me. Signed, James, the bellman in the elevator. He's not the only guy who signed my little card that night. Every single hotel employee that night at the Seattle Airport Marriott Hotel signed my little card. I still have it matted and framed, hanging on my office wall to this day. Let me debrief and conclude and open it up for questions. Here we have the youngest person in the entire employee payroll who seemingly gets it. Guess what? Age has nothing to do with success or significance, Marissa. How do we know that now? Forevermore. Some of the greatest songs ever written were written by young men and young women. Why? They have access to the same 12 notes that we old folks do. It's about passion, creativity, and imagination. What else do we learn? You don't sell your soul trying to be popular for the moment when you have an opportunity to be respected for a lifetime. Songwriting teaches us that. Why? The goal, the dream of every songwriter is to have a platinum selling song. I'm a recording artist. I recorded so much music back in the day. The goal and dream of every recording artist is to have a platinum selling record. What does that mean? We sell 1 million copies. What keeps us writing? What keeps us from selling out and being true to ourselves? I've written hundreds and hundreds of songs that are so pathetic I wouldn't even share them with my own mother. But I keep writing. Why? What keeps us alive as entrepreneurs? The reality that there are 300 million people in America. You can literally piss off 299 million and still go platinum. Marissa's swimwear doesn't have to appeal to everybody, but if you can get 1 million women to pay some pretty good prices for this exotic fabric that doesn't melt away like spandex does I listened a little bit, I'm like, 1 million, don't sell your soul, be you. That's the spirit of entrepreneurship. What else did young James teach us? Money is not a motivator. And yet we think it is. May I just challenge you to not jump ship because somebody else offers you 10 more bucks an hour? Loyalty matters. It's not what we do, it's with whom we do it that really counts at the end of the day. So we leave saying, I like me best when I'm with you, I want to see you again. And to put it in perspective, because I love and honor our military, please remember this. In the military, we give medals to those who are willing to sacrifice themselves so that others may live. And in business, we give bonuses to those who are willing to sacrifice others so that they may survive. We've got it backwards. And the last thing I learned from this young 18-year-old man, truly an entrepreneur in every aspect and definition of the word. Find a need, fix it. Rise to the occasion, do more than anyone else is willing to do. That's entrepreneurship. He understood it, and he didn't even know what it was called. He taught me loyalty. You see, every single time I speak, I'm always relegated to stay at the property where they have the meeting. And it's usually at a posh hotel when we go to these conventions, is it not? Where the towels in our rooms are so fluffy we have a hard time getting our suitcases closed. Do you find that when you travel? This will crack you up. I spoke at Marriott Masters, the top 250 customers that buy more hotel space than anyone else that year from Marriott Hotels. I'm on stage. Bill Marriott's on the front row. I'm like, oh, Mr. Marriott, it's such an honor to be here. I know you have access to all the finest hotel properties in the world. But if you're ever in Utah and you want a home-cooked meal, I want you to come and stay at my house because you're going to feel right at home. Every single towel and robe in our guest bedroom says Marriott Hotel. He laughed really hard and came up afterwards, gave me his personal card. That's funny. That's really funny. But every single time I speak in Seattle, Washington, I always stay at the Seattle Airport Marriott Hotel. Even if I have to rent a car at my own expense and drive an hour and a half out of my way to pay tribute to a brand. Bill Marriott's famous for saying, you take care of the employees will take care of the customer. And to pay tribute to this young man whom I've never met again, who I believe in my heart of hearts. I've given over 5,500 speeches in 61 countries, millions and millions of people. And just maybe, just hopefully, just someday, some young African American is going to stand up and he's going to say, I'm James. I did it because of what we know to be true. You are entrepreneurs, which makes you stand out in every crowd, in every class, in every situation. My challenge in closing and opening it up for a couple of questions is this. Again, related to everyday life, because there's no separation between how you think, what you believe right now as an entrepreneur in a class, in a major, in an MBA program at an amazing university, and trying to figure out how to get back up and go again when you're knocked down and paralyzed and your heart's broken, your dreams are shattered, you're suicidal, and you don't know what to do next. And then in your quietest moments, you realize, what would an entrepreneur do? He'd figure out how to get back up and go again. He'd figure out how to fix what's broken and contribute and keep making a difference, not just a living. It's been an honor to be here. A couple of questions. Do we have time? I know we have to be out of this room at 7:30, and that means you got like 20 seconds to... Any questions? I'm sure some of you really want to leave. You can leave. We have ice cream. It's probably melted. I've been up here with so much hot air. Right here. Yeah, thanks. Stand up so we can hear you. Do you want the microphone or can you? Yeah, but they're not. I don't think they can hear you. Here, come on, man. You got perfect hair. I'd probably... What's your name?
I'm Jordan.
Jordan, are you single?
Yeah, I'm single.
Marissa?
Ready to mingle. So how do you keep yourself from becoming complacent when you've already accomplished so much?
Because I had football taken away from me before I was ready. I go to a football game and I think of Toby Keith's great song. I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm good once more. In other words, what play can I be in one time? If I come into a sports bar and one of you get in a fight, I just need to time that one punch I still have left in me to help out. So I use the rest of my energy to run away. I live my life. I mean, what's next? What's next? Don't you hate it in a social setting when someone says, so tell me about yourself. I'm the type of person who... What a lame message. In fact, what you see is what you get. I've arrived. This is it. This is all I'll ever be. I'm 18. Sorry. I want somebody to believe that we're works in progress, man. If your resume is the same today as it was last week, shame on you. What book have you read? What joke have you heard? What life have you touched? What volunteerism have you given? Have you visited the cancer ward at the primary children's hospital? You want to get fired up? Go in. Can I tell a story? I have to get out of here, right? No. Do I have time to tell you one more story? Is that right? Yeah. It's your fault, man, Jordan. So I'm speaking at this huge financial advisors meeting in Calgary, Canada. And I get there early and I'm walking through the exhibitor area, and here's this young cat, college guy. He's like 19, cool hair. He looks just like you. That's what reminded me of him. A little bit longer hair, perfect hair, kind of the Abercrombie model kind of look. Marissa, excuse me. And he has a booth. He's raising money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. It's a putting deal. Put whatever donation you want in the fishbowl, put your card, and at the end of the deal, he's going to pull out your name and give someone a $350 ping putter. And so he's introduced to come out on stage to donate this $350 ping putter to the individual who put their card in there because they participated. I put $20 in the deal. I missed a couple of deals. He didn't pull out my card. I'm the keynote speaker. They introduce him. He comes out. He's humble. He's handsome. He's cool. And he says, I'd really like to thank you because of your generosity. I've raised $317. And so I would like to award the free ping putter to so-and-so. He comes to the stage. And I'm introduced. Now you know my personality. I came out, I said, you guys suck. And they're like, here's this young man. He's given of his time and his talent to help raise money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And he raised $317 from those of you who make $317,000 in 6 months as a financial advisor. Shame on you. I said, we got to do this again. And I said, may I share a story? And they're all like, you better flip and bail yourself out. Come on, man. I said, the Make-A-Wish Foundation started down in Phoenix, Arizona, where I'm originally from. Mother has a little boy. Her son's name is Bopsy. Bopsy is dying of terminal leukemia at the present time. There's absolutely no known cure. One day his mother has the presence of mind to go to little Bopsy. She said, Bopsy, if you had one dream wish and you knew that it would come true, what would it be? Without even thinking about it, Bopsy says, Mommy, if I had one dream wish and I knew that it would come true, I'd want to be a fireman. The next morning, his mother phones up the local fire department. She talks to the fire chief. She explains Bopsy's health condition and his dream wish. Turns out the fire chief has a heart as this beautiful auditorium. He says, I'd love to help make Bobsey's dream come true. You tell him that we'll be by to pick him up at 7 o'clock in the morning. We'll make him honorary fire chief for the whole day. Fire chief says, down here in Phoenix, we have a factory that makes all of our uniforms. If you'll give me Bobsey's measurements, we'll get a hard hat helmet made for him just like the big guys wear. We'll get him yellow slicker jacket to wear. We'll get him big rubber boots, big galoshes to wear just like the big firemen wear. Sure enough, the next morning, 7 a.m., local fire department pulls right up in front of Bobsey's house. They all go inside of Bobsey's house. They help Bobsey get decked out in his very own fireman's uniform, and they all walk out of Bobsey's house. Looks like a bunch of big ducks, little teeny duck. Bobsey's walking in the back of this long line of firemen in these oversized rubber boots. All of his buddies in the neighborhood are looking out their windows going, whoa. Bobsey hops on the back of the fire engine. He gets to go out on 3 fire calls. It inspires him to the depth of his being to live 3 months longer than any doctor said he could possibly live. On the last night of Bobsey's short life in the hospital, the head nurse saw that he was going down fast. She saw that his blood pressure, his heart rate hooked to the machine was diminishing and fading quickly away. Scrambling, trying to figure out what she could do for this little guy in his last few moments. Obviously, the nurse phoned up his mother and she immediately raced to the hospital. But then the nurse remembered the special relationship that Bobsey had developed at the local fire department. So she immediately phones up, Fire Chief, Bobsey's not doing too good right now and I thought you'd like to know about it. Maybe there's something you could do for him. Fire chief says, you tell that little guy to hang on. We'll be there in 5 minutes. But this time there's 2 things we need you to do for us. Fire chief asked the nurse, could you please announce over the PA system of the hospital somewhere where Bobsey can't hear it, that everyone's going to hear the sirens screaming. They're going to see the lights flashing, that we're coming to see our little boy Bobsey for the last time. And then the fire chief asked the nurse, could you also open up the 3rd-story window into Bobsey's hospital room? Because this time we're coming in by hook and ladder. Moments later, the sirens are screaming, the lights are flashing. The whole entire fire department pulls right up in front of the hospital. Huge ladder goes up the wall. 14 firemen and 2 firewomen scamper up the ladder, every one of them decked out in full fireman's uniform. Every single one of them climbed in through that 3rd-story window into Bobsey's hospital room. They kissed him, they held him, they cuddled him, they caressed him with tears streaming down everyone's cheeks. The big macho fire chief leans over Bobsey's hospital bed, takes a hold of his little teeny weak frail hand. Bobsey looks up at him. He says, Fire Chief, am I now really a fireman? Fire Chief said, Bobsey, you are. And the little guy died. True story that happens every single day in the Make-A-Wish Foundation chapters across our land. There's a really good chance it happened today in Logan. I guarantee it happened in Salt Lake City. Question, is that a story about death? Or is that a story about life, about dreaming, which is the heart and soul of entrepreneurship? Of just trying to figure out a way to make sure that our lives matter and therefore everybody else's life matters because of it. So may I ask you to pull out your cell phone? I just want to give you one of my books. Pull out your cell phone and I want you to text in on the slide. I want you to text in 801-980-9291. It's on the screen. And then enter in the word LEAD, L-E-A-D. And when you push play, when you submit, a link will emit your name, your email address, and just put in there USU student or whatever you want. So I obviously know who you are. And then push submit. And in the next 60 seconds or so, you'll get a free download of my book called The Art of Significant Leadership and Talent Development, which has a lot of the stories that I've shared tonight. My gift to you, hopefully you'll keep in touch. Until we meet again, let's go have some ice cream. God bless, and thanks so much for having me.